In the last section, we extracted a ton of JSX from our index.js file into this new comment detail file. Now, we have one tiny little mistake inside this file right now, something we missed in the last video. You'll notice that inside this file, we're making use of the Faker library. If we want to make use of the Faker library inside this file, we have to import it into this file. At present, we have only imported it into the index.js file. Every import statement that we put is only going to be good for the file that it is placed in. So this import statement inside of index.js is not going to make Faker available inside of our comment detail. So to fix this, I'm going to put import Faker from Faker inside of comment detail, like so. Okay, so we've now created a new component. So now the next thing that we're going to want to do is somehow get this component right here to show up inside of our app. We want to essentially render, is the term we might use. We want to render the comment detail component inside of our app. So how are we going to do that? Well, first off, we need to make sure that the comment detail component is available inside of the index.js file. Remember, by default, all these different variables, components, everything that we create in different files are segmented or siloed off from other files inside of our project. So right now, there is absolutely no connection between our index.js file and the comment detail file. They are not connected in any way. In order to get this comment detail component to show up inside of index.js so that we can then use it inside of our app component, we're going to do two things. First off, we're going to place an export statement inside of the comment detail. This export statement inside of here essentially tells the rest of the world, hey, everybody else, every other file inside my project, if you want to get access to the comment detail, no problem, I got you covered. So the export statement that we're going to place inside of comment detail is going to make our component available to every other file inside of our project. Then to actually get access to that, we're going to add an import statement to the index.js file. And that's what's going to form an actual link between these two files and make sure that our comment detail is available inside the index.js file. So you can kind of imagine that we're going to kind of hook these two things up like so. Once we get that component inside of our index.js file, we can then render it or show it inside of our app through that technique that we refer to as component nesting. All right, so let's get to it. I'm going to first start off inside of my comment detail file. To export this component that we just created, I'm going to go down to the very bottom of the file, and I'll add export default comment detail like so. So again, this line right here is what makes this component available to the rest of our project. We'll talk more about the specific syntax we're using here in a little bit, but for right now, we just need to understand it makes this thing available to outside files. All right, so now we're going to change over to the index.js file. And at the top, we're going to add in an import statement for our comment detail. So I'm going to say import comment detail from, and then we're going to provide a relative path reference to the file that we are trying to import. In this case, the file that we're trying to import is in the same directory or the same folder. So to indicate that, we'll put down a // and then we'll list out the file name, which is comment detail, like so. So again, the / right there means look in the same folder that we're currently in, and then attempt to find the comment detail file. Now you'll notice that we did not have to put on a .js or anything like that. Webpack, the library that is doing this kind of importing stuff and tying all these different files together, is going to automatically attempt to find files ending in JS for you. So you don't have to put the actual file extension on there so long as it's a JS file that you're trying to import. Okay, so this looks good. Now the last thing we have to do is take this component right here that we just imported and use it inside of our app. To do so, I'm going to clean out the existing JSX that is inside of here right now. I'm going to leave the outside div with the class name of UI container comments, but those two duplicate comments that we put inside of here, I'm just going to delete those because we're going to eventually completely replace them. So I'm going to highlight everything from div class name comment all the way down to the second to last div right here. And then I'll delete it like so. So now we're just left with one div with that class name, and we've got the closing div over there as well. So now the last thing we need to do is tell our app component that it should show the comment detail component. To do so, I'm going to treat the comment detail as though it were a JSX tag. So inside of here, I'm going to put comment detail like so. Now, you might have thought that to show that component, you might have been thinking that we would use those curly braces and say something like comment detail. Remember, we just spoke about JSX, and we had said that if we want to refer to JavaScript variables, we're going to use those curly braces, like so. Components are the one exception to that rule. If we want to show one component inside of another, we're going to treat it as though it were a JSX tag instead. So whenever we're showing a component, nope, not going to use those curly braces. All right, so that's pretty much it. So let's now save this file, and we'll flip over to the browser, and we'll test this out. At this point, we're just going to expect to see exactly one comment on the screen. And as we said previously, that comment is currently going to have a fixed author name, time, and comment content right there as well. Okay, so I'm going to flip back over. And there we go. So I see Sam, I got my logo, and I see nice blog post. And of course, I could zoom in and see a little bit more closely. Okay, so that's pretty much it. That is how we show one component inside of another. Now, there's no limit to the number of components that we show inside of another. If we wanted to, we could copy this comment detail here a couple times down like so, and then save the file again, flip back over to the browser, and now we'll see that we have an equal number of new comment components showing up on the screen. All right, so this looks good. So now the only issue here is that we have this very repetitive author name, time, and blog content as well. So let's take a quick pause right here. When we come back to the next section, we're going to talk about how we use that prop system that I had mentioned in the last video to configure these comment details when they are created. So quick pause, and I'll see you in just a minute.